Good evening, Philippines, and good day, world. It's Friday, December 22, 2023, and you're watching Newsline World. I'm Jayne Codnita. We will bring you the top stories we've gathered from all over the globe. First, Philippine senators questioned the National Telecommunications Commission's move to suspend SMNI. Hamas rejected Israel's proposal for another ceasefire. Former U.S. President Donald Trump reacts to the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to kick him off the state's ballot. China stepped up its disaster relief efforts for the residents of quake-hit regions. And the Arab world hailed its first nuclear power station, the Barakah Nuclear Plant. These and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World. First in our news, some lawmakers questioned the National Telecommunications Commission's decision to suspend SMNI. Here's the report by Carla Abellana.
Several senators defended Sunshine Media Network International, or SMNI, from the decision of the National Telecommunications Commission, or NTC, to suspend the said media network. Senator Amy Marcos raised questions on her Facebook account asking who was afraid of SMNI and why it is necessary to shut down those who disagree with the network. Senator Marcos further questioned why SMNI was immediately given a 30-day suspension without being allowed to explain its side. Senator Chis Escudero also questioned NTC's actions, stressing that the NTC should clarify what violations the network committed to avoid allegations of oppression and suppression of press freedom. Senator J.V. Ejercito suggested that only the programs should be suspended or disciplined, but not the entire network itself. The senator also emphasized his belief in freedom of expression. On the other hand, Senator Robin Padilla reminded everyone of the origin of the freedom of expression and that silencing SMNI is an affront to what our Philippine heroes fought for. The said lawmakers also questioned the validity of the penalties imposed on SMNI. For God and my beloved Philippines, Carla Abellana, SMNI News.
The U.S. Senate will not approve a new foreign aid package this 2023, as well as a deal on the country's border. This report.
U.S. lawmakers failed to reach a deal on domestic border security. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said a deal on border and Ukraine funding will not be completed before the end of the year. But negotiations will still continue this week among a small group of key principals. Senator Schumer had postponed the Christmas break of the Senate by a week in the hopes of forming an agreement. In his weekly news conference at the U.S. Capitol, Schumer said, and quotes, "Negotiations aren't easy. We know it's going to take more time, and I am significantly more optimistic today than I was Thursday when we left based on the negotiations that have occurred all weekend. We have only one option. We have to succeed. The stakes are too high for America, for Europe, and for the Middle East of the world." Meanwhile, in a recent joint statement with Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, the two senators expressed hope that a deal would be reached early in the new year. To recall, McConnell said that while there had been significant progress, the Senate and White House negotiators aren't there still. U.S. Republicans have refused to approve the White House request to send billions of dollars to other countries unless the Democrats introduce immigration reforms in the U.S. To recall, U.S. President Biden, a Democrat, criticized Republicans and accused them of holding the proposed foreign aid package hostage, and this, by extension, jeopardizes U.S. national security. National Security Council's John Kirby, in a recent briefing, said that the White House has no magic pot of money to tap into and that the existing aid for Ukraine will run out soon. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in an end-of-the-year press conference believes that the U.S. will not let them down.
And I'm confident that the United States will not let us down, and what we have agreed in the United States will be fulfilled.
Zelensky insisted that there is an agreement between Ukraine and U.S., and this will be fully implemented. To recall, Russian President Vladimir Putin accused the United States of initiating the conflict in Ukraine using the 2014 coup in Kyiv. In a Russian Defense Ministry meeting held recently, Putin said that the U.S. government was very worried about Russia getting closer with Europe and that it successfully created a rift. And now Washington is putting the financial burden on Europe too. Reporting, this has been Jayne Codnita, SMNI News.
Reports emerged that Hamas rejected Israel's bid to revive hostage talks. But what could be the reason? Jayne Codnita will give us the details.
Hamas has rejected Israel's offer to cease fighting for 7 days in exchange for the release of around 40 hostages. In a Wall Street Journal report citing Egyptian officials, Israel proposed a deal that Hamas would release some 40 hostages, including all women and children, as well as elderly male hostages who require urgent medical care. And in exchange, Israel would halt its air and ground operations in Gaza for a week and allow increased humanitarian aid into Gaza. However, Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad reportedly told the Egyptian mediators that Israel must halt its offensive in Gaza Strip before they will talk about any potential deal. The report also said that the Islamic Jihad demanded Israel free all Palestinian prisoners for the release of all remaining hostages, which is estimated at around 100. Meanwhile, it is believed that there are thousands of Palestinians in Israeli jails. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad, or PIJ, is another Gaza-based organization backed by Iran, and the talks were also the first time that they took part. More than 120 hostages are believed to remain in Gaza after Israel and Hamas held its week-long truce in late November. The truce resulted in the release of more than 105 hostages in exchange for the freedom of 240 Palestinians in Israeli jails. But the ceasefire eventually collapsed as Israel and Hamas accused each other of violating the deal. The Wall Street Journal's report comes as Israeli President Isaac Herzog claimed that the Jewish state is ready for another humanitarian pause and additional humanitarian aid in order to enable the release of hostages. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson Daniel Hagari recently said that Israeli troops were nearing the end of its ground offensive in northern Gaza and that they had expanded their action in Khan Yunis in the southern part of the besieged enclave. Israel also issued evacuation orders in the area, as said by the United Nations. The center also serves as a shelter for around 140,000 displaced Palestinians. Khan Yunis is also a place where the IDF believes that Hamas chief Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the October 7 attack, is hiding. Reporting for the Newsline World, this has been Jayne Codnita, SMNI News.
The fourth and final reactor of the Barakah Nuclear Energy Plant, the first nuclear station in the Arab world, has been completed. Francine Sagarino tells us more.
The completion of the fourth unit in Barakah, the largest single source of clean electricity in the Middle East, ushered the UAE into a new milestone of embracing renewable energy. The completion led the nuclear energy plant one step closer to full fleet operations. Unit 4 will generate 25% of the country's electricity needs for the next 60 years, once it becomes fully operational. A round of safety tests by the Federal Authority for Nuclear Regulation is required before the plant can fully operate. The UAE aims to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 as part of its net zero strategy initiative. The ambitious pledge made the UAE the first country in the Middle East and North Africa region to do so. Unit 4 is expected to start operations as early as next year. Reporting this has been Francine Sagarino, SMNI News.
The new Emir of Kuwait took the constitutional oath as the latest ruler of the oil-rich monarchy in the Gulf region. He took over less than a week after the death of the previous Emir. Melchizedek Cadiz has the news.
Outside the halls of the National Assembly, a black car transporting the new Emir of Kuwait could be seen making its way inside the facility as members of the parliament patiently waited inside to witness the big day. Moments later, Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah stepped out from the vehicle where a band greeted him before he stepped inside the very halls where he was officially acknowledged as the country's latest ruler. The 83-year-old received a standing ovation as he prepared to take his constitutional oath, followed by a royal speech. Sheikh Mishal pledged to fight corruption, safeguard the country and its people, as well as adhere to constitutional principles as he took the oath of office. He also criticized lawmakers and the government for making decisions that, according to him, had damaged the national interests of the wealthy Gulf nation. At 83 years old, Sheikh Michal was considered the oldest crown prince in the world. His half-brother and former Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah, died on December 16th after being rushed to the hospital due to an emergency health issue a month earlier. Reporting this has been Melchizedek Cadiz, SMNI News, Kuwait.
Meanwhile, prosecutors from Western Brazil filed a lawsuit against a meat processing company and 3 other slaughterhouses for the alleged exploitation of a protected area in the Amazon rainforest. Here's Natalia Prado to give us more details of the story live. Natalia, what is the current extent of damage in the protected area?
Jayne, at the present, almost 8% of the Jaci Paraná Reserve is destroyed and is the most damaged conservation unit in the Brazilian Amazon. The western Brazilian state of Rondônia filed 17 lawsuits seeking millions of dollars in environment damages in the Jaci Paraná Reserve, an area that was once a rainforest but turned into a grassland after decades of misuse. The lawsuit was filed against Brazilian meat company JBS, the largest meat processing enterprise in the world, along with the 3 slaughterhouses and farmers accused of illegally raising cattle in a protected area. The damages in the reserve were estimated to reach $1 billion, while the compensation sought is around $3.4 billion. According to prosecutors, the ranchers themselves have presented evidence of the damage. The protected reserve created by the state of Rondônia in 1995 covers more than 190,000 hectares and serves as home to lots of farmers. Jayne, the area has been subject to illegal invasions by loggers and farmers, while illegal trade in the castle has been a persistent problem for years. Back to you, Jayne.
Thank you, Natalia, for that live report. Meanwhile, Thailand revealed an ambitious plan to set up 1,500 digital classrooms nationwide to hit its target of producing 100,000 digital talents every year. Chatmong Konpisa Maigoson has a story.
Thailand is the second largest digital economy behind Indonesia in Southeast Asia. Local authorities are finding ways to sustain its rapid growth and maintain its top spot in the region.
Thailand's Digital Economy and Society Ministry has launched the Coding for Better Life project, which involves the establishment of 1,500 digital classrooms nationwide and produces an average of 100,000 digital talents annually. The ministry plans to launch a range of courses and activities that will benefit the youth, teachers, educational personnel, parents, and the public. At the moment, the education sector is only capable of producing 25,000 digital talents every year. The ministry has prepared short-term and long-term plans to address the issue. The initiative aims to maximize human capital as one of the important factors to drive the growth of the digital economy. Members of the cabinet are looking into the proposals presented by the ministry.
Thailand's gross merchandise value when it comes to the digital economy sector is expected to soar between $100 billion to $165 billion by 2030 รายงานจากราชบุรีนายชัดมงคลพิสมัยโกศล SMNI ประเทศไทยสวัสดีครับ
Former President Rodrigo Duterte slammed the suspension of his program on SMNI called the Gikan sa Masa para sa Masa. Duterte said that its suspension is a severe violation of constitutional rights. Cristel Austria has the details.
A serious violation of constitutional rights. This is what former President Rodrigo Duterte stated regarding the suspension of his program, Gikan sa Masa para sa Masa, or From the Masses for the Masses on SMNI.
1. that would be a gross violation of my constitutional right to free expression. And second, of course, is the outfit which I am using as a platform, violation of press freedom. Magdadalawa yan. Kasi using a medium there, which is a SMNI. So, yun ang akin. Those constitutional rights are sacred. Talagang mabigat yan sa ating konstitusyon.
Former President Duterte further stressed that the Constitution is sacred and the move by the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, or MTRCB, is a severe violation.
In my view, the suppression to express your right to exercise this freedom, it cannot be the subject of a preliminary or a permanent status. Hindi nga pwede yan. The right to free expression is absolute. To me, that is how I understand it.
Former President Duterte added that the suspension is a clear form of censorship and derogation of one's rights.
A temporary preventive suspension is by itself already a censorship. Hindi ka nakakasalita. You're censored. So, to me, to that extent, or to the full time that you are not allowed to talk, it is a derogation of your right, of your constitutional right to free speech and free expression.
To recall, the MTRCB suspended 2 SMNI programs, Gikan sa Masa, Para sa Masa, and Laban Kasama ang Bayan, starting on December 18. For God and my beloved Philippines, Cristel Austria, SMNI News.
Sweden and Hungary pledged to strengthen bilateral ties following President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's recent visit to Budapest. The two countries remain the only NATO member states that have not yet ratified Sweden's membership to the military alliance. Kirby Trinidad reports.
President Recep Tayyip Erdogan traveled to the Hungarian capital of Budapest earlier this week to meet his Hungarian counterpart Viktor Orban as part of the 6th meeting of the Turkey-Hungary Strategic Cooperation Council. The meeting marks the 100th anniversary of the Turkey-Hungary Friendship Agreement and the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two NATO allies. Hungary is currently an observer member of the Organization of Turkish States, which consists of 5 countries. Erdogan hailed the increasing trade volume between their countries after it reached $4 billion in the first 11 months of 2023, while both sides aim to increase it further to $6 billion. To recall, Hungary and Turkey remain the only two NATO allies that are yet to ratify Sweden's long-delayed membership, which requires a unanimous decision by all of its member states. It has been 1 year and 7 months since Sweden formally applied to join the alliance, but until now the membership remains uncertain. On Thursday, the Turkish Parliament's Foreign Affairs Commission debated a bill approving Sweden's NATO membership. Once the Commission approves the bill, a vote by the full General Assembly will take place, and only then can Erdogan sign it into law. This has been Kirby Trinidad, SMNI News.
The approval rating of Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's cabinet has decreased by 23%, according to the latest poll conducted by the public broadcaster NHK. This marks the lowest approval rating recorded since 2021. In an interview with China Central Television or CCTV, Ukiro Magusaki, the director of the East Asian Community Institute and former Japanese foreign ministry official, attributes the decline in the cabinet's rating to issues related to political funding.
これだけその裏金問題であるとかさまざまな腐敗が起こってきてるからもう自民党はもう良くないと、こういうのが今の国民のムードになりつつあるんじゃないでしょうか。これから選挙対策どうするかということが非常に重要なんですけども、自民党の方は自民党と公明党が協力している、ですからかなりここは強い保守基盤が守られている。他方野党の方はバラバラなんですよね。同じ方向を打ち出せるか統一候補を立てるかということが 今後の選挙の非常に重要なポイントになっていると思います。
The dissatisfaction is fueled by suspicions of underreported revenues from fundraising events that have impacted the government.
日本の経済は、非常に悪く、物価高がありますから一般の人たちの生活は苦しくなってきている。で一般の国民の生活が厳しい時に、議員はそういう勝手にできるお金をどんどん増やしているということで、国民の怒りが、出てきたと、こういうことだと思います。
Meanwhile, another former official sees this decline as a result of the sluggish growth of Japan's domestic economy. Kishida's term as Japan's prime minister is set to conclude in September next year. Japan has formally turned over an air surveillance system to the Philippine Air Force as part of a multi-billion contract signed between the two countries, Ria Saito reports.
A ceremony was held to inaugurate a Japanese-made radar system at a former U.S. airbase in the Philippines. The Philippines Department of National Defense or DND Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr., together with senior officials and representatives from the Embassy of Japan, led the acceptance, turnover, and blessing ceremony at the Walas Air Station in San Fernando City, La Union Province. The FPS-3ME air surveillance radar system will help the Philippine Air Force detect intrusions in the country's airspace from as far as 300 nautical miles. Each radar unit is equipped with a ballistic missile defense mode capable of providing near real-time information and early detection of threats and intrusions into the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. The transfer was part of a 5.5 billion pesos worth of contracts signed between the Philippine Air Force and the Mitsubishi Electric Corporation in 2020. The first of the 4 radar systems will be delivered in October 2023, with 2 more expected in 2026. The turnover marks the first time Japan has exported a complete defense product since the country eased its long-held arms trade ban in 2014. 以上、日本からセトリアニュースとお伝えしました。SMNI News Japan.
Japan is set to release another batch of nuclear contaminated water coming from the defunct Fukushima nuclear power plant in February 2024. This announcement comes from the plant's operator, Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO. It marks the 4th time that Japan will be releasing nuclear contaminated water with an estimated volume of around 7,800 tons. The release is expected to commence at the end of February and conclude in March. To recall, Japan initiated the release of nuclear contaminated wastewater from the Fukushima plant in August of this year. The Fukushima Daiichi plant suffered severe damage in March 2011 following a magnitude 9 earthquake leading to the meltdown of 3 nuclear reactors in Japan. America's former President Donald Trump responded to the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to kick him off the state's ballot. Jean Domingo reports.
The Colorado Supreme Court recently ruled to bar Donald Trump from the presidential ballot of the state. This, however, resulted in an immense backlash among Republicans, scholars, Trump supporters, and Trump himself. While Trump did not address the decision during a rally on Tuesday night in Iowa, the former president on his social media platform, Truth Social, made a post. Trump said, quote, "What a shame for our country, a sad day for America." End of quote. The Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Trump was not an eligible candidate because he had engaged in an insurrection that happened in the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Reports say this is the first ever use of Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment to disqualify a presidential candidate. But this ruling only applies to Colorado, and it does not stop Trump from running in other states. Trump's camp, meanwhile, said that it will file an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, calling the Colorado ruling as completely flawed. It can be noted that similar attempts were made against Trump in Minnesota, Michigan, and New Hampshire, but these have all failed. Meanwhile, a report by Advanced Democracy, a non-profit, non-partisan organization that conducts research on public interest, claimed to have found significant violent rhetoric against the justices and Democrats on the social media platform Truth Social. Reports citing Advanced Democracy found that some social media users posted the numbers, email addresses, and office building addresses of the Colorado Justice. Reporting this has been Jayne Domingo, SMNI News.
China has stepped up its disaster relief efforts following the 6.2 magnitude quake that rocked the northwestern part of the country. And for the latest, our reporter, Go Chang-chi, is joining me live from Gansu province. She is at a relocation point at Dahijia village in Jishishan County.
We're here arrived at the Front Command Center in the epicenter located in Dahejia town, and this is the square where all the rescue forces are gathering for a moment to wait for further instructions. And here are firefighters, some armed force, and also the state grid that they are providing emergency energy for the entire Front Command Center. So at the center of the square, we found a radar that attracts our attention. And experts here told me that this radar can monitor the deformation of a mountain from 5 kilometers. So why it's put here, it's because the most dangerous mountain right now is the mountain behind me. Just a few minutes earlier, we found some falling stones caused by an afterquake, which is also a common thing at this time.
Residents of a fishing and tourist town in Western Australia were told to flee to the ocean as an out-of-control bushfire threatened lives and property. Sasha Hasa has the news.
Act immediately to survive. That was the urgent call of Western Australia's Department of Fire and Emergency Services, with residents told to leave for the coast and seek refuge. Hundreds of firefighters joined forces to tackle emergency bushfires in Lancelin and 2J, where firefighters face challenging conditions to protect lives and property. A terrifying footage posted on social media showed how close the fast-moving blazes are getting to residents. Meanwhile, in New South Wales, exhausted firefighters spent days battling an enormous blaze in the Pilliga forest. The bushfire has burnt more than 121,000 hectares of dense bushland in the iconic Australian landscape, after lightning strikes sparked new fires on Tuesday. Residents breathed a sigh of relief after the threat level was downgraded later in the evening after pockets of rain started falling in the area. As deadly blazes engulfed Western Australia and New South Wales, thousands of residents in far north Queensland will be isolated for days as floodwaters drowned homes and properties since last week. Former tropical cyclone Jasper started as a system of storms and low pressure converged around the Solomon Islands on December 5 before it landed in Queensland on December 13. An evacuation center has been set up in 2J. Authorities reminded residents to be vigilant and always prepare their bushfire survival plan. Reporting from Sydney, this has been Sasha Hasa, SMNI News, Australia.
Just a few hours away from Metro Manila lies a truly remarkable city with world-class facilities, and its monumental structures were only built in just 18 months. Let's find out more about the new Clark City with Hannah Jane Sancho.
World-class facilities, green and smart city, a disaster-resilient metropolis. New Clark City gained recognition due to the 30th ASEAN Asian Games held in 2019. Did you know that New Clark City was also built to address traffic congestions in Metro Manila? And as part of preparations and to assist in the expected Big One earthquake, New Clark City is one of the monumental structures of the Philippines. In fact, it was built in just 18 months.
This was used during the SEA Games in 2019. These are the residential condos that we are offering for long-term lease. This is the athletic stadium, which was the closing ceremony of the SEA Games. Closing. And this is the aquatic center. So the swimming pools are here. We have a practice track. And these are all what we have, which we built. Just before the SEA Games, it was built in 18 months. Everything was built in 18 months, including the road network.
Join our team as we explore the proud New Clark City. Our Brazilian correspondents are also part of our team. What will they say about their experience here?
Hi everyone, we are here in New Clark City. We're invited to tour the place, so come and join us.
For everything that we saw here, everything's so organized, and we see the future coming. All the projects that they have is so productive and fruitful, and they're so clean, and we see that will be a great source of opportunity for the people that will come in.
So our time here has been very nice, and for me personally, it reminds me of my hometown, Brasilia, that was also a planned city, and we can see that here also in New Clark City, that they are planning everything. We can see a great development, and we are very excited to see how everything will turn out in the future.
It's really amazing. We can see the development, and we can be really the future for the Philippines.
So we thank to our beloved pastor for this very opportunity that we had received with some of our Brazilian brothers to visit the Clark complex, which is, in my opinion, really first world class kind of complex, which will give more opportunities to the Filipinos. As we can see, some of the Asian games were held here. We see that by doing that, we can bring more resources to the Philippines, bring in more political and also cultural development for the Philippines. So in my opinion, it was like a really huge complex, which the Filipinos, in my opinion, never experienced in other places. But we can see the great opportunities building this area. The Filipino community, as well the international community, can take advantage, take good use of this whole area. So for this opportunity, I thank also on behalf of the whole SMNI, as well the whole Brazilians, and also our beloved pastor, to the chairman, Delphine Lorenzana, who gave us this privilege and opportunity to tour around the Clark complex. We thank you so much, sir.
In New Clark City, you'll find the River Park, the residences, Athletes Village, outdoor warm-up track, athletic stadium, and aquatic center. New Clark City, the Philippines' first green, smart, sustainable, and disaster-resilient metropolis. How about you? Do you believe that New Clark City is the next Metro Manila? For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. The more you imbibe the Word of God in your life, the more you acquire riches in heaven. And for our Christmas countdown, it's only 3 days to go before Christmas. That's all for this edition of Newsline World. For more updates, you may visit SMNInewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for watching, and we thank our beloved Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, for the opportunity to be a part of this program. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Jayne Codnita, and this is Newsline World.